2010, when the protests started in Tunisia, I was living in France. I was having a good life, a job, a car, a house, and actually thinking that I was happy and had everything that I needed in life. But when I saw this first video of a young person being shot by the police trying to escape from his life protesting in a remote area of Tunisia, I frankly could not come back anymore to this normal life. And I decided that more Tunisians need to be involved in what was going on, and especially in the transition efforts after the dictator fled the country. That's why I stopped what I was doing in France and I came back to Tunis, trying to understand how I could be useful and how I could participate in these efforts of transition. Very quickly, I realized that the protests were not leading anymore the transition, that the people on the street were not decisive in the process that was going on. Political parties were negotiating, and if I had to be influential, if I could become influential, I had to be a member of one influential political party. That's how I decided to involve in a long-time opposition to the dictatorship political party, one that whom I shared values, liberties, labor, social justice, and I decided to volunteer for the national campaign. Once everything was set and the electoral lists were going to be formed, I asked if it was possible for me to run for parliament. And this was possible, and this is how my political involvement commitment as a potential candidate started. I think two major achievements for the women political participation in Tunisia are the electoral laws. One is for the parliament and the other is for municipal elections, imposing parity in the electoral lists and rejecting any list that is not fulfilling the criteria of a zipper system and 50% of gender representation. And I could say that now, today, with a parliament of 34% of women, we are achieving major progress for women well-being. Knowing that in Tunisia the first cause of death for women aged between 16 and 44 years old is domestic violence, the parliament has just passed a law against gender-based violence, and, for example, criminalizing marital rape, criminalizing sexual harassment, forbidding the marriage of a rapist with his victim in order to escape any kind of cases. So I think it is important to have women political participation because, well, it can help women's life to be saved. On the other hand, we can see at executive level, we have so much more steps to bridge the gender gap, I could say. Women participation in leadership positions such as ministers or Secretary of State is very rare, and we are not seeing any kind of change in this trend of nominating more women, although we have new positions that have been held by women, for example, a female Minister of Tourism, a female Minister of Health, a female Minister of Finance, which is the first time in Tunisian history. We still see it as not a vision, not a trend to implement gender parity, but more like political nominations that are there only to fill a temporary gap. The other thing as well is in terms of administration in the civil servant body, we have less than 1% of women position in a leadership position. This is also, we have big expectations in terms of appointments in the Tunisian administration, but we are far from breaching the glass ceiling. First of all, I think women should be organized in political parties. They should acknowledge that being united, whether in the form of a network or a branch or just an informal group, is crucial to have a vision of women's participation and to increase visibility within the party towards issues, policies, and also ideas of how to bridge the gender gap, but other issues that are related to public policies in general. So first, having the women organized so that they could reach out to the leadership that is mainly male in Tunisia and to advocate for changing the bylaws. Let's make it structural that women are present at all levels of decision making. I would say that it should be at the local level, at the regional level, and at the national party level. Women should be present at 50% of women. That should be our objective. It should be a minimum that we require. It's a long way to go, but we need to convince male allies, and we cannot progress without male allies who are not, let's say, sharing power because they are making concessions, but because they acknowledge that the well-being of a society comes only when the two genders are represented and working together to improve the society.